Jonathan.
Sarah, we've heard from the president via Twitter on Omarosa describing her as crazed, a crying lowlife, a dog. Is this any way for a president to talk about any American, let alone somebody that he hired and made the highest ranking African-American woman that served in his White House?
I think the president is certainly voicing his frustration with the fact that this person has shown a complete lack of integrity, particularly by the actions following her time here at the White House.
Why did he hire her? I mean, why didn't he hire somebody he's describing as a dog, as a lowlife?
The president wanted to give her a chance, and he made clear when General Kelly came on, and he voiced concerns that this individual didn't have the best interest of the White House and the president and the country at heart. The president said, do what you can to get along, and if you can't, he gave him full authority to carry out the decision to let her go. Steve?
What is his strategy in continuing to respond to the charges in this book? Why does he just ignore it?
Look, I think he's made, again, the frustrations. I think not only those of us here in the White House, but frankly, I think most of America would be happy to ignore it. Unfortunately, the individuals in this room continue to create a large platform for somebody they know not to have a lot of credibility, for someone they frankly refuse to give a platform to when they worked here at the White House. It wasn't until this individual started to negatively attack this president and this administration and try to tear this entire place down that she received the type of platform and rollout that she's getting. I think it would be great if every single person in this room and every single person in the administration never had to talk about this again, and we actually got to focus on the real policies and the real things that not matter just to people in this building, but certainly all Americans, African Americans, Hispanics, and everybody in between. I think that would be the best thing that we could certainly do for our country. Kristen.
Sarah, have you asked the president if he's ever used the N-word?
The president addressed that question directly via Twitter. I'd refer you back to him. I can certainly say I've never heard him use that term or anything similar.
Have you asked him directly, Sarah?
The president, I didn't have to, because he addressed it to the American people all at one time.
Why haven't you asked him directly?
Again, the president answered that question directly on Twitter earlier today.
Can you stand at the podium and guarantee the American people they'll never hear Donald Trump utter the N-word on a recording in any context?
I can't guarantee anything, but I can tell you that the president addressed this question directly. I can tell you that I've never heard it. I can also tell you that if myself or the people that are in this building serving this country every single day, doing our very best to help people all across this country and make it better, if at any point we felt that the president was who some of his critics claim him to be, we certainly wouldn't be here. This is a president who is fighting for all Americans, who is putting policies in place that help all Americans, particularly African Americans. Just look at the economy alone. This president, since he took office in the year and a half that he's been here, has created 700,000 new jobs for African Americans. That's 700,000 African Americans that are working now that weren't working when this president took place. When President Obama left after 8 years in office, he had only created 195,000 jobs for African Americans. President Trump, in his first year and a half, has already tripled what President Obama did in 8 years. Not only did he do that for African Americans, but for Hispanics. 1.7 million more Hispanics are working now. This is a president who cares about all Americans, who is committed to helping them, and is putting policies in place that actually do that. Kevin. Sorry, Kristen, I'm going to go ahead to Kevin. Kevin, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Just to be clear, you can't guarantee it.
Look, I haven't been in every single room. I can tell you the president has addressed this directly. He's addressed it directly to the American people, and I can tell you what the focus and the heart of the president is, and that's on helping all Americans. And certainly, this is somebody who has been in business for decades, and you're just now hearing some of these outrageous accusations after the fact. He's dealt with people all over the world. It wasn't until he became a candidate for president that you started to hear some of these salacious and ridiculous claims. And certainly, I think if you look at the actions that this president has taken, certainly the policies that he's enacted, you can see the heart of who he is, and you can see exactly what he has done and the type of president and person he is. Kevin?
Thank you, Sarah. Just a very quick one on something that Omarosa said today. She called the president unfit, mentally unfit for the office. As someone who worked with her, how surprised are you at the level of her animus toward this president and toward this White House, and if I could follow?
I'm certainly, I think like most people that worked with her, very disappointed that she would go to such a self-serving and somebody who blatantly cares more about herself than our country to make up some of these outrageous claims and accusations. Look, she worked here for a year and didn't have any of these things to say. In fact, everything she said was quite the opposite, and not just the year that she worked here, but the time that she spent on the campaign trail. And I think it's really sad what she's doing at this point.
If I could follow very quickly, I wanted to ask you, just very briefly, we read earlier this afternoon that the Trump campaign has made an arbitration action against Omarosa. And I'm just curious, and I know there's separate entities, but is it likely that the White House is considering pursuing something in the way of possible action toward Omarosa for violating any...
I certainly wouldn't be able to comment on any potential ongoing legal matter. Major.
Sarah, a moment ago you said one of the motives for Omarosa was to tear this entire place down. What do you mean by that, and do you have, or others here have, ongoing concerns that while she was here, she taped other conversations that could either be damaging to the reputation of this White House or revelatory of something you'd rather keep private?
I think the greatest concern we have is the lack of integrity that this individual has shown.
One other thing, Sarah, she played a tape recording of a conversation with the president. Do you have any doubt that that is an authentic conversation that she had with the president?
I don't.